The wind howled through the broken windows of Yahya's apartment, carrying the scent of smoke and dust. Outside, the streets were quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that comes after years of conflict. Cracked pavement, burned-out cars, and abandoned buildings painted the picture of a place once full of life, now reduced to ruins. Yahya sat on the floor of what used to be his bedroom, staring at a worn photograph of his family. His father was gone. His younger brother was missing. Only his mother remained, sleeping in the next room, her breathing weak but steady. He had told her he was going to find medicine. In truth, tonight would be different. He folded the photograph and tucked it into his jacket. His backpack was already packed. A bottle of water, stale bread, a flashlight, and a few bandages. It was all he could carry, all he dared to bring. He stood by the window, looking at the hills far beyond the city. Somewhere out there was the border, guarded by soldiers and machines, the last barrier between the shattered world and the hope of something better. Yeah, he didn't know what was waiting for him on the other side, but he knew what would happen if he stayed. More fear, more hunger, more loss. He stepped into his mother's room one last time. The candle beside her flickered gently. Yahya kissed her forehead, fighting the tears welling in his eyes. "I'll come back for you," he whispered. "I swear." With one final glance, he opened the door and slipped into night, the weight of his decision pressing on his shoulders. The journey had begun, silent, dangerous, and irreversible. And so, Yahya walked into the darkness, chasing the promise of a new life beyond the border. The forest smelled of damp earth and pine, but Yahya couldn't enjoy it. Every rustle in the trees made him freeze. Every snapping twig sent his heart racing. He had been walking for hours, guided only by the moonlight and a vague memory of the route told him by a friend who never made it out. At last, he saw a flicker of orange between the trees, a fire. He crouched low and moved carefully until he reached a clearing. A small group of people huddled around the flames, men, women, even a child. All of them looked exhausted, and at the edge of the group stood Kareem. The smuggler was thin, dressed in black from head to toe. His sharp eyes scanned Yahya before he even stepped into the light. "You're late," Kareem muttered. "I had to avoid the checkpoint near the dam," Yahya replied. Kareem grunted and held out his hand. "Payment." Yahya pulled out a small cloth bundle and placed it in Kareem's hand, the last of the savings. Kareem counted quickly, then nodded. "You walk with them. I lead. No noise, no questions. If someone falls behind, they stay behind." Yahya glanced around the circle. The people didn't speak. Their eyes were hollow, full of fear and silent desperation. He wondered what stories each of them carried, what they had left behind to be here, in this dark forest, gambling their lives for a future they couldn't yet see. Kareem kicked dirt over fire and motioned with 2 fingers. "Move." The group began to walk in a single line. No one spoke. The forest swallowed their footsteps. Yahya kept his eyes on Kareem's back, his mind racing. This was real now. There would be no turning back. As they moved deeper into the woods, the cold bit harder and the darkness thickened. Somewhere far off, a drone buzzed faintly in the sky. Yahya gripped the straps of his backpack and focused on his breathing. One step at a time. No fear. Just keep moving. The forest turned darker with every step, as if the trees themselves were trying to swallow the group whole. The moonlight barely reached the path now, and the temperature had dropped sharply. Yahya's breath fogged in the cold air as he stepped carefully over tangled roots and patches of mud. They had been walking for hours. Kareem never slowed down. At the back of the group, an old man stumbled. A woman helped him up without a word, but Yahya saw the look in Kareem's eyes, cold and impatient. They couldn't afford to stop. Any noise, any delay, and they could be discovered. Suddenly, Kareem raised his fist. The group froze. Yahya crouched low and listened. A sound, not from them, from somewhere nearby. A vehicle? No, something lighter. Footsteps, distant but coming closer. Patrol. Kareem pointed to the left, and everyone darted silently into the bushes, lying flat against the cold ground. Yahya's heart pounded in his chest. He lay beside a little boy and his mother. The child looked terrified, his small hand clutching his mother's scarf tightly. Yahya leaned close and whispered, "Sure, you're doing great. Stay still." The boy nodded, trembling. A moment later, the sound of boots passed nearby. Flashlights cut through the darkness. One beam swept just inches from Yahya's face, but kept moving. He didn't breathe. No one did. After what felt like forever, the patrol moved on, their voices fading into the distance. Kareem gave a hand signal. "Get up. Keep moving." They crawled through thorns for the next hour, tearing their clothes and skin. Yahya's hands bled, but he didn't care. The border was still ahead, and there was no room for pain. Not now. Eventually, they reached a high ridge overlooking a valley. In the far distance, Yahya saw a line of lights, fencing, towers, and searchlights. The actual border. But between them and that line was the river. Yahya swallowed hard. The worst was still to come. The rushing sound grew louder as they descended into the valley. It wasn't the wind this time. It was water. Fast, wild, and freezing. Yahya saw it before they reached the bank. A dark, wide river cut into the land like a wound. "This is it," Kareem whispered. "One crossing. No mistakes." The moon hung high, reflecting off the churning current. The far side was barely visible, just a stretch of trees and a patch of land that marked freedom. But the river between them was dangerous, swift and deep. "We go in pairs," Kareem instructed. "Strongest first. Help each other, if you can't swim. Pray." Yahya turned to the mother and her son. The boy was shivering uncontrollably, lips blue, eyes wide with fear. Yahya dropped to one knee. "I'll take him," he said. "You follow right after us." The mother hesitated. Her eyes searched his face, looking for any sign of hesitation. She found none. She nodded. Yahya wrapped the boy in his coat and strapped his backpack tightly. Then, holding the child close, he stepped into the icy water. It was worse than he imagined. The cold punched the air from his lungs. The current pulled at his legs instantly, threatening to sweep them away. But he moved forward, step by step, until the water reached his chest. Then his neck. "Hold on to me," he shouted over the roar. The boy clung to him like a second skin. Then Yahya swam. The current was merciless. Each stroke drained his strength, and the cold made his arms feel like stone. The far shore looked no closer. His muscles screamed. His lungs burned. But still he swam. A shout behind him. Someone was swept downstream. He didn't look back. All he saw now was the edge of the far bank, just a few meters away. He kicked with everything he had left, teeth clenched. The boy's tiny arms tied around his neck. Then his hand hit earth. He pulled himself onto the muddy shore, gasping, dragging the boy with him. "Safe." The boy burst into tears. Yahya lay on his back, chest heaving, staring up at the sky. One by one, the others followed. Some made it, some didn't. But Yahya had crossed, not just the river, but the line between who he was and who he had to become. The forest on the other side was eerily calm. Birdsong echoed faintly through the trees as the sky shifted from black to a deep, bruised blue. Yahya sat beneath a tree, soaked, freezing and exhausted beyond words. But he was alive. The boy lay sleeping beside him, wrapped in both their coats. The mother had crossed shortly after, collapsing in tears the moment her feet touched solid ground. Kareem didn't wait. He gave one last glance at the survivors, then disappeared into the trees. His job was done. Yahya didn't blame him. The smuggler had risked his life too, just in a different way. One by one, the others began to stir, some crying quietly, others sitting in stunned silence. The river behind them roared. Like a living memory they all wished they could forget. But ahead was possibility. Yahya stood slowly, his legs aching. In the distance, the tree line thinned. A dirt road curled through the forest, the first road of the new land. Beyond it lay a refugee processing station. Papers, questions, waiting, but also warmth, shelter, safety. He helped the boy to his feet and took his hand. "You did good," he whispered. "We made it." As they began walking toward the road, Yahya looked back one last time, at the river at the border, at the pain that had shaped him. He didn't feel relief. Not yet. That would come later. What he felt was something quieter, steadier, resolve. He had crossed the border not just as a refugee, but as a man who had faced the worst and kept moving. The journey had scarred him, changed him. But now, as the first golden rays of the sun pierced through the trees and warmed his face, Yahya allowed himself a small smile. This was not the end. This was only the beginning.